Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to the Wolff Den presented by Win Again Academy. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we got Ronen Ainbinder in the Wolff Den. We got a special early evening episode. How's everything going today?
Matt, man, that first of all, that introduction music, man, popped me up so good, man. That was so great. I mean,
That's
it's really
Canva.
good.
That's Canva. Our
It's
friend
really good.
Michael Katos of the Fan Experience League.
Oh,
You were a guest of. He introduced me to it
yeah.
and showed me how to do it. Glad to have you on here. But for the people in the audience who don't know who you are, give us a quick introduction, and then we'll get into everything.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. Man, first of all, thank you so much for hosting me here on the Wolf Den. I wanted to come since I first saw it on my LinkedIn. We connected a little bit while ago, and man, I was like, man, I gotta make it to the Wolf Den. So afterwards, I invited you over to my podcast, and then I'm happy to be here finally. Quick snapshot of me, who I am. I'm a financial analyst in a full-time job. That's my full-time job, and I also create content. So I'm a content creator in sports, in the intersection of sports and technology. Been doing that for about 19 months, since January 2020. And what I do is that I put out a weekly piece of a newsletter, a magazine I call it. I send it out on Fridays, and I also host a show called the Halftime Snacks, where you appeared. Mike Katos also did. Which I release on Tuesdays, and I just have conversations with people in the industry like yourself, like the one we had. And yeah, man, I'm just having fun in the process, you know.
Yeah, very similar to what we do here. Just bring someone on and let's talk about what they're working on and what they're passionate about. And so all of the stuff that you're doing, the newsletter, the blog, the podcast, it's all sort of side stuff
Right.
because it's not your full time job. Do you aim to have
Correct.
this be a full time job? Is that the goal?
Yeah, so the initial idea with the creating content was, first of all, to pursue this like intellectual curiosity that I had for technology and sports and that intersection, for business, which is my background. And so it all started with that, just pursuing my intellectual curiosity. And then all of a sudden, I realized there's just so much power in content creation. I'm sure we could talk about this because you've also been creating content for a while. I mean, episode 151, man, you're you've been doing this for 3 years, I suppose. And like, once you realize like the power of content and the power of the internet and how you can reach new audiences and new like people that share the same interests as you, and that, you know, explore the same niche as you love. So that's when you like find your people, and then you want to get related to these people. So for me, that was like a process. I started creating content for me, then I realized that other people enjoyed it. So making it public was something that was going to help me, you know, get in contact with all these new people in the industry. And then afterwards, I started understanding that, you know, it's mostly about developing your network and your relationships with other people in the industry, but it's also about developing yourself. It's about, you know, building some skills and learning how to communicate better, and being a better, you know, public speaker, and being a better writer. And those skills are, you know, transferable skills that you can take on to, you know, finance or media or technology or any other industry. And it's gonna serve you. It's gonna benefit you eventually. So you asked me if this eventually wants I want me to do I want this to become my full-time job, man? Absolutely, man, because I love doing it, man. And I always say that I love doing it so much that I would even do it if I had no subscribers or no listeners, because it's just, man, talking about topics in sports and technology and discussing things, man, I found it super fascinating and interesting, that I don't really mind the audience and the exposure side. But I just enjoy doing it so much, man, that if someone comes and offers me something for it, or wants to bring me in, or wants me to add value to them, man, 100%, you know.
Great, it's all gravy. A couple of points on the things that you said. we've actually been doing this show, the Wolff Den, for less than a year. It started out doing once a
Oh,
week, and then it got to twice a week.
okay.
Now we're like 4 days a week. So
Okay.
151 episodes came by pretty quickly, which is really just it's great. And I love what you said about that you enjoy doing it, and you know, because that's the hardest part. And I say this every time I'm on a podcast or whenever the conversation comes up. The hardest part about doing all of this is just doing it. Is just getting it started. Doing a podcast, writing the newsletter, doing the blog, whatever it is. You know, we too many times we just get in our own way of doing something, and you start it, and then you're just like, you know, you don't
Yeah.
go through with it. And so you know, that's the impressive thing about having a podcast, having the newsletter. It doesn't matter. I mean, of course it matters if there's people watching, but in some cases it doesn't matter because it's not your job, right? And if this never becomes your job, you're still going to do it until you decide, you know what, this isn't fun for me. And so that's what I think is really great about, you know, what you do and what so many other people do. There's a ton of podcasts out there, and
Yeah.
they're not all doing it for the right reason. But you know, there's a lot of people doing it, and they're doing it often, and it's great content when you get a chance to listen to it.
Yeah, so first of all, man, I want to say tons of respect to you and your content. 151 episodes, man. And if you've been doing it for in less than a year, it's a lot, man. Like you've been working hard. I like, and I can say it from the eyes of the creator, and that I know what it takes, and you know how it takes to prepare and do things before, and the time you put in, man. So tons of respect to you for that, Matt. And the second point that I want to mention is also that, man, the first thing you realize about creating content, at least, you know, a couple of iterations in, is that it is a marathon, really. It's not really a sprint. It's about, you know, gaining some good pace, some good, you know, speed, but pace. Pace is the most important keyword, because if you go too fast at the beginning and you want to like make money out of it, and you start putting ads on it, and you start, you know, clickbaiting people to subscribe, and reaching out to people that are not going to be engaged with your content, then you're doing it wrong, and you're going to get tired very fast, and you're going to drop out. Now, if you start slowly, but then start building your pace up and seeing what you like, seeing how you enjoy it, seeing how much time you actually want to devote to it, you know, on a weekly basis, and how much you want to invest in terms of money and time and things, then you start measuring it by that, and it's going to take you much more further that if you want to just go fast and create, you know, a business out of it, or make money out of it. Because first of all, in my experience, that doesn't really work, because building an audience is more about having, you know, relationships with the people that enjoy your content, and that enjoy your interests and your passions, and the topics that you want to discuss. But it's also about like enjoying the process, if that makes sense. Like for me, it's so fun, man, having conversations like this. Like time goes so fast, and I don't even realize that time goes, because I'm enjoying it, you know. So kind of like the mix of understanding it, it's a long-term game, and that once you like start seeing the benefits of, like, for instance, compounding, of how like at the beginning it's probably going to be slow growth, but then once you like get on a pace, you're going to start seeing, you know, more people interested, and more people giving you feedback, and more people interested in coming to the show and reading your content and engaging with it, and throwing you a comment here and there. So that's when you see that you're actually progressing. But thinking that it's something that, you know, 1 month of a sprint and doing it out super quickly, at least in my experience, that's not the way.
Yeah, I agree. We forgot at the beginning to say where are you from, because you're not in the U.S.
Yeah,
That's why we're at here at a sort of a later start, and also with your job. Where are you sitting right now?
yeah, I'm in Mexico City, born and raised, till I was 18 years old, and then I left. I went to Israel for my studies. Did a BA in finance, business administration, and finance. Then came back right before the pandemic, and here's where I'm established right now. Here's where I started creating my content and publishing it online, man. But you know what I say about location is that in today's world, it doesn't really matter anymore, man. You are in Florida, I remember correctly,
Yeah.
or you're yeah, you're in Florida. I'm in Mexico City, man. We can have conversations at, you know, live. through this amazing StreamYard platform, which we were talking about it right before we kicked it off. And I've been able to also connect with people all over the world, Australia and Asia and Israel and Europe, London, South America, North America. Like, the internet is a crazy place, man. Like, I don't know what you think about it, but in my opinion, man, the internet is just a wild place, because you can just meet like-minded people that enjoy the same things that you do, and it's just a click away. It's not anything more than that. You can sit down and talk and have interesting conversations with anyone anywhere in the world, and that's amazing, man. Like, what do you think about that?
It's the internet is crazy. So I got introduced through to a poker game, an online poker game, from someone that I met at one of I think it was one of Mark Moyer's events. Shout out to Nick Mershon. I don't know if you know Nick, and he invited me to play poker. I invited him to my poker game first, and then they went live, and now he invited me to his poker game, and I played, and it's organized by this guy. His name is Mike Merrill, and a really interesting guy. He actually is in Vienna, Austria right now, because he filmed a TED Talk, and he's the organizer of all this. And it
Okay.
was last night, and he shows up 4 o'clock in the morning in Vienna to play in our tournament. So it's just crazy. Like, he's in Vienna, I'm in Florida, the others are in California, and we have a Zoom call and we play. Definitely want to, for anyone who's listening, want to watch Mike's TED Talk when it comes out. He's been in the news before, but he sells shares of his life, of himself, and allows his shareholders to make decisions on some of the stuff that he does. So the internet is crazy. The ease, the ease at which you can access people is great. There's also downfalls of that with the internet and the cruelty that goes on, and also sometimes it's not so great to be able to be have access to people 24/7, and people always wanting to be connected. So but it's great. I think, especially with content, right? You put
Yeah.
content out there, it can, and they do this, like, it can reach the entire world. There's nowhere in the world that it can't reach. And then you hear people, when you get feedback saying, "Hey, I heard you," and you're, "Oh yeah, where'd you hear me from?" And they say something and say, "Oh, it's halfway across the world, and somebody's listening to the stuff that you're doing." It's just a really cool feeling.
Yeah, man, it's wild. And I want to ask you, like, how do you manage uh to stay out or to avoid the negative side of the internet?
Uh,
This is something that I've never spoken before. Actually, could be actually an interesting topic of discussion. We as content creators, we spend a lot of time in social networks trying to promote our work and trying to reach new audiences and reach new people and see if we can find their people that can engage with what we or that resonates with what we're doing. But that can also fire back in ways that, as you mentioned, negativity or just spending so much time there. Is there any like thing that you've been doing to avoid that side of like negativity, or some strategy that you think of, or anything you do to like disconnect yourself from the internet when you need
don't
that?
don't I dive right in. I tell people, what I'm thinking, and how I feel, and what I think is right and what I think is wrong. I live by the golden rule, and I say that being on the right side of history. So, but I have strong opinions, and people are gonna, push back on that. Most of my strong opinions lately have been in sports. So, the Florida Gators, my team, and there's a lot of negativity on Twitter. But I'm not afraid to call people out, because I would want people to call me out on my stuff. And so, I think, I embrace that, but I know it's probably there's people who are not going to want to follow me, or engage with me, or maybe even do business with me because of something I said. And you know what? I'm okay with that. As long as I can look myself in the mirror and kind of stand behind how I feel and what I said, I'm not too worried about that. But it's tough. That's the good thing and the bad thing about being on your own, is I could say whatever I want. Obviously, there's consequences for what I say, but I don't
Yeah.
have to worry about giving a strong opinion. Whereas I might have held back previously.
Right. Do you have like a specific experience of something that you can think of, quick, top of mind, that happened to you, that kind of like got you thinking, like, oh, like this guy, what's going on with these guys, or
So
something.
follow my Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter, my personal, and then I want my Ticket Time Machine to be kind of snarky and funny and
Yeah,
sarcastic. The way, I mean, there's some good. Steakums has a great Twitter account.
yeah,
Wendy's has a great Twitter account. There's a
yeah,
Riot Fest is a festival has a great. I want Ticket Time Machine to kind of be like that. So I kind of throw jabs at people and just answer with funny and silly type of stuff. But I don't really try and avoid it. I think we have to have I think we have to have the tough conversations, and that's the way that we can all get better, and that's the way that change can come about. And so I welcome that on the Wolff Den. I don't care if you agree with me or if you don't agree with me. I just want to be able to have an intelligent conversation that is, it's not two people yelling at each other, and we can argue about things, but do it civilly. And
right,
because what I found is there's sometimes people who are even in the same place,
yeah,
they're still different. Like we're at the same, looking for the same goal, but they still have different philosophies about it. I'm not here to say you're right or wrong. I just, I think there are certain things that are right and that are wrong. There are
right.
certain where there's no gray area.
No,
Uh,
and one of the other things that I think is that as a content creator, probably you can maybe share also your story of how or when you realized this. But as a content creator, man, for me, I realized that my communication skills improved like so fast and so drastically. Like I go back to my first couple of episodes or my first couple of articles that I wrote or sent, and the difference in the clarity of thought or in the structure of the way I wrote things or in the things that I considered one way or another to be like, kind of like polarizing. Like now I can judge that and be like, damn, man, I was a shitty, apologize for the word, but I was a shitty communicator, you
yeah,
know. And sometimes I feel like in what you're like, going back to your point, sometimes you see online, or you see like people that are arguing around specific topic, call it sports, call it politics, or call it whatever, and then they might be defending the same idea or the same thought. It's just that the way they communicating is not making it clear for one another to understand each other. And so it kind of like gets stressful, because you know it's not a matter of opinions, or a matter of positions, let's call it. It's more a matter of like how bad people communicate. And I'd say that's like that's I mean, people laugh at the people that study communications and stuff, man. But I think it's one of the most valuable like things and skills to have. Like, what are your thoughts around that?
I think communication is about as important as anything with anything I'm doing, relationships and within the workplace with the people that you're trying to do work with in business and personal. So yeah, I think it's very important. A lot of people don't like to communicate, and they kind of that's why they'll just sit and send you emails or text messages, and nothing like picking up the phone or having a conversation face to face. And it becomes like everything else. I think it just becomes easier the more you do it. So the same thing you said, you go back to my first 10 episodes and then go look at episode 50 to 60, and then go look at episode 100 to 110. I mean, I think that I've gotten better at this, and you feel more comfortable around it too. And I still make mistakes, and I still have times where this is unscripted too. So
Right.
there's times when I can't remember what I was supposed to say, or I need an awkward pause somewhere in here. But yeah, it helps you improve the communicating, the
Right.
writing too. I think I feel like I've become a better writer and more comfortable putting my thoughts in writing too. But it's still difficult. Like today, I like to put out content every day on LinkedIn and Twitter and then Instagram and Facebook. And I didn't have anything today. I was trying to think about what can I do today, and I have like my hashtags that I use, and like Wisdom
Yeah.
Wednesday or Woman Crush Wednesday or some of the things. And I was thinking about doing something about Carly Lloyd in the U.S. soccer player who just played her final match.
Yeah.
I probably should have done it because you know what, content is so subjective. Like there's
Right.
people who would have found value in it, but it didn't like hit me as, man, this is good. I need to do it. So I just didn't do anything today. And tomorrow I'll get back to it. And maybe some days you have a couple of things that you want to put out there. But it's not easy. It's not easy to come up with it, the idea. Then it's not easy to actually construct it and then have it actually, sound good when you're putting it out there or look good.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy task. I really applaud the people who are doing this, and only this for their job, because this is a small part of what I do. But
Yeah.
man, it is tough some days.
No, man, absolutely. I agree with you. And also I want to add that the fact that I'd say it's like putting yourself out of like your comfort zone in a way, like pushing yourself to do those things. It's like pushing yourself to become a better version of yourself. So I also applaud that fact. And I feel like, just going back to our point, like communication itself is one of the most, if not the most important skill that you can have, at least in business. And you mentioned it. You mentioned like emails and text messages. There's people that can't even communicate through that. Like they can write things and they can, try to express, but they're not going to be able to communicate. And you see those, email chains going back and forth. 25 emails till like you get it, or that happens a lot in like the office and stuff. But learning and iterating over content is a very special way, as long as again you enjoy it. Because if you're doing it for the money, man, that's a different conversation. Or if this is your job, then awesome. But if this isn't, and you're doing it because you're enjoying it and you also want to improve your skills, man, tons of respect. So man,
And yeah,
151 episodes.
you have the non-communication too. So I've written articles about ghosting, and I post about it all the time. There's people who can't communicate with you because they don't want to. I mean, they don't know how to be honest and real,
Yeah.
or they just think that their time is worth more than your time. And I have an article coming up with that. I've been writing it for like 3 weeks now, because I'm every time I pause and then I go back to it, I'm trying to think like, what, how do I say this in a way that I think people will understand what I'm trying to portray, as
Right.
opposed to being like, this guy's a dick.
Gotcha.
It's tough.
One thing that I wanted to say is that, well, going back to your point of just becoming a better communicator, I feel like most people don't understand. Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you, what do you think? Do you think, let's say a teacher, okay? Would you say that, which teacher is better, the one that knows more about the topic or the one that knows how to explain it better?
Yeah, I mean, they're both. I think they're both valued, but I think being able to explain something better might make it more meaningful, because you have to be able to share your knowledge. It's also the difference between people who could spout and repeat stuff back to you.
Yeah.
They're good test takers. Like, I read this, I can tell you what answer you want,
Mhm.
but can I explain it? So if it's a multiple choice as opposed to an essay, who's going to do better?
Yeah, no, and
Depends.
actually, like, I want to connect this to the fact that we're both content creators, man. I consider ourselves educational influencers of the medium of sports, me technology, the side of business, you through Ticket Time Machine. I feel like we kind of like create this positive educational exposure to people, and that makes us teachers in a way. So you saying that, like, it really is important to know how to explain those things is probably more important than knowing how to repeat things, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, and I mean, there's also people who can argue and and go in circles and try and move the goalposts and try and catch
Yeah,
you in something. That's, to me, that's not positive conversation. Um,
right.
you know, you get a lot of that. You get a lot of that on Twitter. It's
You get a lot of that,
you get a lot of everything on Twitter.
yeah.
But you're on. I saw you had. When I was looking at your website, which is
Yeah.
listed here, and it's got a lot of information about what you do, your blog and your newsletter, and it talks about your projects. So I want to hear more about your projects, because you do a little bit of coding. You have some Twitter accounts that are pretty interesting. One of them,
Yeah.
has a pretty good following, right? About 6,000 followers.
Yeah, yeah, about that, man. Interesting. No one has asked me about this, but let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, I just how did you get into that stuff? So, I mean, even let's go if we could start back almost from the beginning, because you know, what were you like growing up? What were you interested growing up, and why did you settle on not settle is not the right word. Why did you end up in the finance world? And
Yeah.
now you've started in the sports tech. You have some coding experience. Um, how did you get interested in all that?
Man, this is such a great question, and I'm sure I'm gonna mess it up somewhere.
It's your answer. It's your life. Whatever it is.
No, yeah, man. But I think I was always interested in numbers and stats and how things relate to probability and just applied science of numbers and how you know. Uh, I remember that when I was like a kid, I always used to ask like, out of like a group of 100 people, like how many people would you think would be fans of Chelsea or Manchester United, like things like that, just like thinking about ratios and numbers. Like I've been always like very interested in that. So at the beginning I thought that I was meant to go to engineering school, and so that was my first move. Once what I was when I was done with high school, I went to engineering school. The mistake that I probably did at the time is that I didn't know, or I wasn't aware of how bad or how difficult engineering was. And so um, I spent a year in engineering, man, realizing that it wasn't really what I wanted. It wasn't. It was just too much math. Too much, too many numbers. I enjoy numbers, but there's a limit, and engineers, man, they don't know the limit. At least not at the school that I was. And so kind of like in this process of switching careers and trying to find what I wanted, um I've realized that there's ways in which you can find numbers but also applied, so more practical, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And so that was part of like business and finance, like the more
There,
quantifiable.
before I forget, there's a show on Netflix called The 100 Humans. Have you seen this?
Never seen it, man. Is it
Called
is
The
it good?
100 Humans. It's very interesting. They get 100 humans, and people try and guess. Like they have experiments to ask questions and sort of like trying to figure out how many of these 100 are going to think one way as opposed to another. So check it out. It's
Interesting.
called The
I'll check
100.
it out.
Very interesting series. But go on.
No, yeah, for sure. I'll check it out. But man, I came to this realization that finance was the applied side, like the applied side of numbers and math. So it wasn't as hard. I was able to have a life outside of studies, and that's how I started get really engaged in classes, and I was able to speak with teachers and feel like I was part of it. That's where when when you're just passionate about things, you kind of like know it's immediate. And always been a very a very big fan of sports, and always followed like the NBA and the NFL, and I have like teams and stuff. But the moment where I was introduced to sports technology, man, this is actually gonna be a very funny story. I was actually living in Israel at the time, going to university, and there was this sports technology conference at uni, and I was like, that looks interesting. I wasn't even aware that this concept existed. So I went to this conference, and in one of the booths outside of the conference, there was this company called Respect. Tons of respect to those guys, amazing people, but they had a technology that basically uh, tells you exactly at the point in the rim of the basketball rim where exactly the ball landed of a shot. And that specific technology, I saw it 1 year before on the All-Star game for the NBA. And so I was like, man, I can't believe like you guys did this. Is this like your project? Like what's going on? Like I was blown, man. I was blown away. And they were like, yeah, we're the ones that did it, and we were able to get access to the All-Star game and whatever. And so I was like, man, like I don't care, I want to work with you guys. Like I told the CEO at the time, listen, man, I just want to work for you. Like you remember that scene from Wolf of Wall Street,
Yeah.
the guy the acting by Jonah Hill, the
Yeah.
scene where in the restaurant he goes like, man, show me a check and I'll just work for you. So that was the same story. Like me, I came to these guys like, man, I want to work for you. Don't pay me. I just want to see what you do. I'm fascinated by this. So that was like my first experience with sports technology. I did some market research for them, Latin American markets and whatever. But that was the moment that I was introduced, and I realized that there's something here. Like it's not like a thing that people talk about. Like it's actually a side or a sector of the sports and technology industry that is combined and that is really building the future of what we experience as sports. And so from that, I kind of like started to dig and dig and dig and see and got interested and talk to people and worked at another startup in Israel for this one was for technology powering like a ticketing system in Europe for games, soccer games. It was really fun, but kind of like also meeting the people behind those platforms kind of like made me want to be more involved. And so once I was done with my degree, pandemic was starting to sniff out and things weren't looking as great. I was like, man, I got to get involved in one way or another. And so the content was my uh, my rescue for my interest and my curiosity and the things that I wanted to do eventually, which is what I'm setting myself up for in the future by building content. And so that's exactly how I got interested in sports technology. Now, you may ask, okay, so where are those bots like Pump Bot, and there's also Naval Spanish, and I've coded a few other bots. Man, it kind of like happened because when I was in finance, I still had like this interest in like numbers and applied like science in a way. Um, so I just got super interested in like coding and realized that it was fun and it was new ways in which you can train your brain to think, if that makes any sense. Like I don't know if you're familiar with any type of coding or if you coded yourself
I'm
at any
terrible at
time or
technology
something.
and all of that. But you were in Israel. Do you know Tamir Goodman?
No, I actually know this guy from LinkedIn. Never met him on person. He calls himself the Jewish Michael Jordan, I believe.
Well, they call Sports Illustrated called him the Jewish Jordan. We had him
Yeah,
on.
that's
We
right.
got him on the Wolff Den a few weeks
Oh,
back,
nice.
and he just launched a. He's big into sports technology too, so you should reach
Yeah.
out to him. He just
No,
launched
no,
a
we're in
product
contact.
called a Net, where apparently like the ball comes through and it
Cleans
like
the ball. Yeah.
cleans it and dries it. I don't know. Sounds crazy, but it sounds like it's getting some traction.
Yeah, yeah. And so, man, I know Tamir, and he's a great guy. But I feel like my interest for technology was in the way things work and how like the rationale behind like specific like apps and things that work for the benefit of humans. That's exactly how I got interested in like coding. And so coded some bots because thought it was a cool project, thought it was an interesting way of learning. Having a project, I always say that like if you want to learn, it's better. eh, The worst way you can learn is by listening. The second worst way is by reading, and the best way is by doing. So I thought of myself, let's just do something. Let's pick a project up, something simple, something that can challenge my level of knowledge. And the good thing about it is that once you take like one project, you start of like taking more and more. So there's like more bots that I have set up that interact with specific followers or that send a message once someone sends me a follow, or that it follows specific accounts that are following other accounts. So there's things that I've built from the back end that you can't see, but those are like the ways in which I decided to get in the side of technology, which is quite simple but not so simple because it does challenge you. And so yeah, that's exactly how I created those projects.
I always get in trouble when I say it's simple or easy, but the truth is, for the people who know how to do it, that stuff is not difficult if you know
Right,
how to do it. Now,
exactly.
getting to know how to do it, that's a different story. But once you know how to do it, it's not that difficult to keep
Correct.
going and
Yeah,
doing.
in the whole like spectrum of difficultness in coding, that's probably on the like beginner's phase. So yeah.
But it's still pretty cool to see.
Yeah,
So
and I feel like
on
also
the
like
project.
projects are proof of your interests in a way. So if, like, for instance, your podcast is just a proof of your interest in learning from other people and developing relationships in the space of sports and technology and the companies related to Ticket Time Machine, or just stories of fans or people building companies. So that's a proof of you. This project is a proof of you being interested in those things, and it's more than just saying, yeah, I'm interested in that. You know what I'm saying?
It's putting your money where your mouth is, so to speak.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
putting some skin in the game and not just saying. But yeah, it's a lot.
100%.
It just we talk about a lot of things. I've over the years I've talked about a lot of things and didn't do it, and that was just me again. Not you hit that first road bump and you don't do it. So that's
Yeah.
just again just do it.
But
Nike, just do it, and that's the best way.
no, but
That's the
that's
way.
also the way. That's also the way you discover your path, right? If you start creating content, and after a couple of episodes or a couple of pieces of content that you've written, you realize that you're getting tired of, you're not motivated, then it's not for you. Then it's also a quick way of polarizing your ideas and your thoughts of things that you're interested around or not. You know what I'm saying? Like, it really tells you if this is for you or not if you do it, because like, I feel like that it's what you mentioned. It's like having skin in the game. If you're gonna enjoy the benefits, you're also gonna have to enjoy the downfalls. So it's kind of like a trade-off.
Yeah, it's hard. It'd be hard to do a show like this every day if I didn't enjoy talking to people and learning and hearing their stories. And so, yeah, I agree with that. Growing up in Mexico City, what was your sports fandom like? I mean, who did you like? Who did you watch? How did you follow them? What
Yeah,
sports
so
were you mostly interested in?
I played when I was young. I played on the basketball team and on the flag football team, and I was also on the soccer team. Like, in my family, man, like, sports is like a very important value, and always been like a sports person, but also got introduced to the entertainment side of sports by watching teams in the NFL, in the NBA, and in soccer, international soccer. Um, and the way I became a fan is because of the specific talent that I got to watch at that time. So it was back in probably like 2004, 2003, 2005 when I started watching sports. And the ones that caught my eye were Allen Iverson, um, Peyton Manning, and Ronaldinho for Barcelona, and then also Didier Drogba on Chelsea. Like, those were the guys that pulled my eye and got my attention. And so since then, I became a fan of the Nuggets, the Colts, Chelsea, also Barca fan. But now they're struggling bad, so don't even want to talk about it.
I have a friend who's in Liverpool, big Liverpool fan, and I don't. It's hard to understand how someone's doing because the season is so long and there's so many. See, I know they won it all about a year or so ago.
Yeah.
There's a lot of excitement. Then they've lost a few games. So, but
Well, but
soccer,
what
so
about you? How you became a fan? Is it because I feel like there's three ways you become a fan. One is either you were in the city of the team that you start watching, and that's why, like, you feel part of it because of the city. Then the second one is because uh you were attracted by the talent that you saw, either by the team or a player or a specific someone with the talent that caught your eye. And then the third one is that if you have a specific relationship with that team, because of some relative that follows it, or because there's a family member that lives in the city of the team that you follow. Like, what is it for you? Does it fall in one of those three categories?
yeah. I mean, I played sports, a lot of sports growing up, and then my dad always was a big sports fan. He liked watching sports, and he would take us to some games, and we kind of we were rooting for the home teams, but then I kind of started taking a liking for certain players like John Elway, and so I became a Broncos fan when he actually got drafted to play baseball for the Yankees, which I thought was pretty cool as a football player, a young football player getting drafted to play baseball, and then Dale Ellis, I don't know, he was just a great 3-point shooter, so I started to be a Dale Ellis fan, and then I was
Yeah.
a Sonics fan, and Brett Saberhagen was a pitcher for the Kansas City Royals, who for some reason I don't know, maybe it's because he had a long name. I had some weird reasons for liking these teams, and now I went to school at University of Florida. So for me, college is like up here, and pros
Yeah.
below that. But
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
it's people. Sometimes it runs in the family. Sometimes it's just you know getting exposed to it when you're playing it. You see it, you watch it, and
Yeah.
I have people whose parents like didn't watch sports at all, and they like sports. So look, everyone's got their thing. I think whatever you do, that you should do stuff that makes you happy and that you enjoy and that you're passionate about. Whether you're 10 years old running around on a soccer field or 30 or 40 years old and following the team. Sports is, I don't know. It elicits a lot of feelings and emotions and happiness and sadness and laugh, cry, all the whole. It just runs the whole spectrum of emotions for me.
Yeah, no, man. I feel exactly the same way. And the way we connect, or fans connect to sports on a deep emotional and belongingness level, like that is super interesting. Like that idea that the performance of a team, I'll feel identified by that performance in a way, or I'd feel like the culture of my team becomes also my culture. That's super fascinating. Like that's human psychology at its best, and that's like human behavior and like decision making, and like there's so many things that are going on fans' minds when they're cheering for a goal, or when they're supporting a team, or when they're crying because your team won the championship. Like there's just tons of chemicals that are going on in our brains. No, like
I
what do
invest
you
way
think?
too much physically, emotionally, mentally, financially in the teams that I thought, especially the Gators. And I was on Twitter and I used the word we or you because I'm a Gator. I went to the University of Florida. I'm a Florida Gator. And so when my team plays, I associate them as my team, and I'm not on the team, but I
Yeah.
use the words we, and so it's for me it's a bigger and it's a stronger connection than what I had to any of the pro teams that I was following. Even though I still do root for those teams and I root hard and I have plenty of memorabilia for those teams,
Yeah.
and it's exciting for that. But you might have answered this previously when you were talking about some names. But do you have a Mount Rushmore of athletes that are just your favorite? So
Yeah,
Mount
man.
Rushmore is four.
Yeah, I do. I know. I know. Yeah, those guys that I mentioned, Peyton Manning, man, by the time that I was watching him play, like being, the smartest guy in the field, and being able, like, now, man, I don't know if you've seen on Monday nights they do the
I,
Manning cast.
I keep missing it. He was just on this past Monday. I meant to watch it.
Man, it's
I can't wait to watch it. I love the
so
show.
good. It's just so good because you really see how these guys think, and it's super interesting to hear them speak at the same time that things are happening. Because Peyton is like, oh yeah, this is a cover three. They're gonna run a run play through the left, and you're gonna see the tackle open up, man, and that happens. They predict. These guys are fucking genius, and
You
so
know what
that
I think. You know what I think kind of launched them though. I think that I have to give props to Tony Romo because he kind of does that when he
yeah,
broadcasts the game, and he's great at it.
yeah,
And they said, you know what, this is great television.
yeah.
Maybe we can get the Manning. And it's funny because I hated Tony Romo when he played.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
hate
Me too. Me
I
too.
hate the
Watching him play,
Cowboys.
I think it was trash. But
The
but but
Cowboys.
as a commentator, he's so good, right?
I didn't like him because of the team he played for. It really didn't have to do a whole lot with whether or not he won or not. Although, in fairness, he didn't ever win a playoff game, so he's
Yeah.
never going to be compared to the great quarterbacks out there. But I think he's great on television, and I keep meaning to watch Peyton and Eli's broadcast, and I miss it. I think they're supposed to be on about 10 times this year, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They just
I'll
came
have to,
back in on week 7. I think it was the first 3 weeks, and then now again.
yeah,
So
they were
man,
on
but
Monday,
it's
so I'll keep an eye
yeah,
out. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
it's
You
great
should.
to be able to watch that because I tell you, I don't watch as much as I used to because I'm always in the office, but I have a TV
Yeah,
right here, and a lot of times I have it on. without the volume because I could live without whoever's talking and what they're talking about,
Yeah.
watch. But I would like to watch the game and then kind of listen to hear them. So I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's great. What's the what's one thing that you think is going to be here in the future of sports and tech that isn't here yet that you think will happen in the near future? Have you thought about this?
Yeah. So I mean, many things. It's a great question, and we've seen so many new areas and segments of sports technology develop very quickly. Specifically, if we talk about like 2021, like digital collectibles, which is something that I've been writing about recently, has exploded in popularity. Like NBA Top Shot and like from Dapper Labs, and also like F1 Delta Time. I don't know if you're familiar for Formula One. And there's also Sora, which is like trading cards, soccer cards, and there's also Fantastic, which is a great company based in London. Those things are happening, and they're happening really quickly. Like it's not more than a year and a half that they started out, NFTs and all those stuff. I also see a big rise in new AR, augmented reality applications. Whether you see them in broadcasting or you see them in physical activations with specific things happening in the stadium with like screens and stuff. The cool thing is that this new things in sports, specifically like for fans that do attend the stadium, those things are changing the way we experience events on a live type. But also thinking about like fans that are at home, there's this funny or interesting stat that says that about like 95% of your fans are never going to be attending a game of your team eventually on live. So you got to find ways of getting them engaged while they're not, at the stadium, and all these like new trends of like live betting and applications that create games around what's happening in the game, like fantasy or prediction markets or what have you. I think those things are really interested in, and I'm really looking forward to what will come out of that, again, because it's more about thinking how to keep those that are never going to be able to come to the stadium engaged and connected with the team and have that, as you talked about, sense of belongingness and emotional connection that goes on beyond one it's himself, and still keeps him engaged. You know what I'm
It's
saying?
just yeah. So I'm actually going to a game this weekend, the Florida Georgia football game. I've been going to games into baseball and basketball and
Yeah.
football. I love going to a game live. Uh, I love to tailgate before the game, so it's just kind of
Yeah.
a real big experience for me. What I don't like is being on my phone, which I find myself doing too much when I'm at a game or even when I'm watching the game here. But I know that's the trend for it. So, people are always trying to figure out, hey, how can we get you engaged and on your phone? Or even more, hey, you're going to be on your phone. Well, how can I get you using my stuff and staying on our
Mm.
page and engaged with our content while you're doing it? I don't like it, but I understand it.
Yeah.
And I get that a lot of it's, pure based on FOMO. Like, hey, did you hear about this? Did you see this? Um,
Yeah.
which is, it's a smart thing to do. But yeah, technology, as you said, in 2021 and some of 2020, everything crammed, like
Yeah.
accelerated big
So
time.
quickly.
Yeah, which was good. It got us some good technology, but also got some stuff that's not great that probably should have been, perfected before they put it out there. And um,
Like what? What do you have in mind?
I don't. I'd have to go think about it, but just
Yeah.
everyone started a virtual, some type of virtual platform, and then
Yeah.
again, even with this NFTs. I mean, NFTs are everybody's got an NFT that they want to sell. I
Yeah.
think we're still navigating towards the value of these NFTs, not just hey, I got one, you could buy them. The
Yeah.
In my opinion, the people who are pushing it the hardest are the ones who are most heavily invested in it, and they
Like
also
a
have
pump and dump or what?
what was that?
Like a pump and dump, like they're trying
Well,
to
no, I
pump
think
it
they
and
just
then
have a lot
sell
of
it.
money in it. They have their own platform.
Mm,
They're invested in,
yeah,
some type of crypto or an NFT project that they want, and they have a big following. And these following, the people who follow them, they eat it up. So it's like whatever you say, whatever
yeah,
you do, I'm in. And I'm not even, there's stuff that I'm always like, hey, whatever comes up with the Gators, I'm going to be interested in. Or Seinfeld, which I'm a big fan of, or
yeah,
be a particular actor or an athlete that you're just like, I want to be a part of it. So I don't know. I think there's just, the markets get saturated fairly quickly, and I assume the cream will rise to the top, and some other people it'll kind of calm down a little bit.
yeah.
That's
No,
technology for you, right?
yeah, I think that, as you mentioned it, you have the live experience and then you have the layers above the live experience and how you interact with those layers. But I think that the cool thing is that now we're able to put the layers on the live experience, or not even to like substitute, but to complement the experience in so many different ways. So the cool thing about technology is that now we're enabled, now we have the alternative, now we can choose if we want to buy an NFT, or if we want to engage with the specific AI technology in the stadium that will tell me how many people are in the line before I buy my popcorn, or that what I'm saying. Like now we have the alternative and the option to choose. Now, to your point, I worry if this new technology is going to be forced upon us eventually,
Well,
meaning
it
that
is. It's
we're
definitely.
not going to be able to go to the bathroom unless we like sit on the virtual line before we step from the game and go to the bathroom, because it's a virtual line. So those are things that I'm worried, but I don't think that they will happen, because at the end of the day, technology aims to enable and improve the quality and the way we do things, like those types of
I
things.
think it
So
improves, but I think the technology, the data is all being collected to find out how can we maximize the dollars that you're going to spend, um,
right,
gathering all this information. So, you know, are they doing it to improve the experience? Sure, that'll help, but I don't know that that's the motivating factor for all of this, which I think is unfortunate in the world, but that's the way it's going. So I don't try and fight technology. Ticket Time Machine, we have augmented reality experiences, customizable QR codes. We understand that digital is big, and it's the future. But so we'll bridge the gap, and but there'll always be people who want physical, and there'll always be
right.
people who won't just jump at the new
No,
technology.
100%, 100%, 100%, Matt. And I think, like, to your point again, like, at least we'll have the option to choose. And my second point to that is that fan is actually king, man. Like, fan chooses what he wants and what he doesn't. And at the end of the day, the fan is the customer. So
It's supposed to be.
yeah. No, I mean, it's the entertainment business. Like, sports are entertainment and they're made for to entertain fans. And yeah, the whole like emotional connection and everything makes it a very interesting customer. Yet he is gonna be the one choosing. So, but at least now you can choose. That's the cool part. Like before, okay,
A
there
lot
was
of
there was
times
no NFTs and whatever, but now there is, and you can choose to invest or not.
you can choose, but I do think a lot of these companies, events, teams, organizations, whatever, they know that you're going to go regardless, and so they are not as fan centric and fan
Yeah,
first as they should be, because again, they know you're going to go, they know you're going to buy. Right,
yeah,
this person comes out an album, you're going to go see them. The tour comes on, you're going to go see them, and
yeah,
so they feel a little bit entitled. And I wish that they would focus a little bit more on the actual experience, not just what you say
yeah.
is going to be, not you, but not just what they say is going to enhance the experience. Because I think they don't
True,
they don't know exactly what the fans want, and I think that's a
a
big
hundred
problem
percent.
too. They have all this data, but they're not using it correctly, and some of it's the wrong data. That's
Right.
probably for a whole nother conversation. I want to. I want to. who would you love to have on your podcast? Let's put this out in the world. Give me like 2 or 3 names that you'd love to have on the podcast and have a conversation with.
Do 100%. Not sure if you're familiar with Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee is the
Yeah, yeah.
right pronunciation. So the quick story about this guy is that, man, he's like the person that I admire the most because he had a he was an all star. You know, he was all pro team, I believe.
The
Uh,
Colts.
or the Colts. Yeah, he was a
Yeah.
great punter, like very skilled, talented, and he one season he was gonna get a couple of $1 million contract, but he decided to like quit and dedicating his life to comedy and making other people laugh because that was what he enjoyed the most. And so everyone criticized him and made him look like he was a fool. But at the end of the day, he opened up his own podcast, and now he's listened by over a couple of million people, more specifically in the states. And man, just recently he signed like a huge deal with like FanDuel, which gives him so much more money and opportunity than a contract in the NFL would have. And man, tons of respect to him because he was able to do that and still fight like critics and stuff.
He's
And
got his
he's
own
one
show,
of like,
right?
yeah, Pat McAfee show, man, so entertaining. I love the guy. It's so much of what I do and what I say and the way I interview people. I took it from him, honestly. So,
Would
man,
you rather be on his show or have him on your show?
no, man, having him on my show, it would be my dream because it would mean that I've developed the process and I've became good enough for someone on his level to come on my show. So I would be honored to have Pat McAfee on the
Yeah,
Halftime
I mean,
Snaps.
I always say this, and we've had some well-known people on the Wolf Den, but I don't care who you are, or how popular or well-known you are. I have people in my network, which is a pretty good network, who have no idea who you are. So there's value. There's value for him coming on to your show to
True.
introduce to another network. Give me another name. Who else would you like to have on your show?
Mark Cuban, 100%.
Cuban, yeah.
Yeah, because of like the way he's involved in the business side of sports, and also like his interest in technology and like the way he's invested in future of technology in sports. Man, this guy
I
has
like him.
tons of things to talk about with me.
I like Mark Cuban. I saw him at. I always tell the story. Every time someone's bringing up Mark Cuban, I was at the Fanatics Super Bowl party 2 years ago in
Uh-huh.
Miami, and he's hanging out in a Mavericks cutoff, sleeveless,
Yeah.
t-shirt with jeans. He doesn't care, which is great. It's great. He's one of those owners. I think that it's okay. Generally, you don't want to know who owns a team. If you know who the owner is, they've done something stupid or wrong, or they're annoying.
Yeah.
But he's pretty good. I mean, he's had his moments, but he's pretty good. I'd love to have him on the Wolf Den too. I'd have all these people on the Wolf Den.
Yeah. No,
I,
man, one day we'll have them. I always say that as long as we enjoy this, man, they will come eventually.
well, the first thing again, and we talked about at the beginning, is you got to ask them. Just say, hey,
Of
reach out to
course.
their people and say, hey, would you, I'd love to have you on the Wolf Den.
Of
I'll even
course.
send them a clip of this and say, hey, we gave you guys a shout out. So, my whole network of all these tons of people who are watching. Anyway, we'll let you out of here on the same question we let everyone go with, and you might have already answered the question, but you can spend a day with anyone in the world. You get 24 hours. Who are you choosing, and what do you want to do? You can't pick anyone who's dead or who's not alive. That sounded morbid. They have to be alive, and you can't be related to them. Who are you going to choose, and what would you do?
Man, I choose Pat because again, yeah, I admire this guy. I think that having the courage to shut off the critics and go out and pursue your passion and do what you love is really most of what inspired me to do and be who I am today. And I'll be honored to spend the day with him and
Have him on your show
appreciate.
while you're spending the day with him. Have him on the show. Do his show. Do your show. That'd be a great day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but
Spend some time with you.
100%
All
will
right,
be Pat.
we're gonna put Pat on the list. We've done some outreach for some of our guests. It's definitely an attainable answer, and so we'll see what we can do. But check out the website. A lot of information there. You can sign up for the blog, the newsletter. find out about the projects that he's done, get more information about the Halftime Snacks podcast. Let's give Ronen some support and follow what he's doing. I look forward to seeing what comes next. And I'm sure you'll be back on the Wolff Den, and I'm happy to do Halftime Snacks when we got something to talk about. But we got another episode tomorrow. We do. I was trying to think if we're on or not tomorrow. Another episode of the Wolff Den tomorrow, so tune in tomorrow. Until then, have a great rest of your day, a great night, wherever you're at. And thanks for tuning in.
Man, Matt, appreciate you having me on the show, man. It was a pleasure. It was fun. We talked about so many interesting things here, man. So, yeah, can't wait to do it again, man. Appreciate you.
All right. Talk to everyone soon.